So today's day 3. We did introduction to business. We talked about business planning and legal structure. And today we're on to the marketing employees. So we're going to talk about a few things. A couple of first things are about identifying our ideal clients, our ideal locations. I know a lot of us are not brick and mortar locations, but we'll talk about it anyway because we never know when we're going to get there. And it's something that you at least have to have in the back of your mind. Now, today we're very lucky to have Christina Griffin. She's sitting in the back of the room right now, but she is the person in the Entrepreneur and Business Center that helps us specifically with social media and website design. So we're going to talk about, so we're going to tag team on that a little bit. I'll talk about marketing a little bit to start with. That she's going to talk about social media and web design and how that relates to marketing. Because that in this day and age now, 15 years ago, this wasn't even an issue. We were talking about traditional marketing, which we'll touch on. We'll also talk about, but social media is sort of where it's at right now. Then we'll talk about employees a little bit. It's difficult, but we're going to talk about hiring and managing employees a bit, and then we'll touch on our homework again, which is basically our business plans. So I pulled this from another class I teach in entrepreneurship because I can't stress enough what being an entrepreneur means. And this is a quote from Colin Powell, an Army general and our former Secretary of State. And the quote is, "There are no secrets to success. It is a result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure." Because that's exactly what it is. If you're not willing to work hard, first of all, preparation. Because I can tell you that whenever I do well, it's because I'm prepared. And I'm nervous all the time, no matter what I'm getting involved in, whether it's giving a presentation or when I was a young man and I played sports. I mean, I would have intestinal problems before every game, even though I was prepared, because it was just, I was anxious about that performance. And then hard work never goes away. You can say, well, it'll be fine. I don't really need to study for this test, but I can tell you that if I didn't study for a test, it usually didn't end well. And then I had to learn from failure, which I did that too. But especially in business, you're going to fail. There's no two ways about it. It is not a home run every time. We're talking about marketing today. But marketing, I mean, I studied marketing. I have a master's degree in marketing, old school marketing, but marketing nevertheless. And there's not one, I don't care how many YouTube videos you watch, there's not one of them that'll tell you, oh, here's how you do it. Here's how you market, and you're going to sell everything. Because it just doesn't work that way. It is literally just playing whack-a-mole, trying to figure out which one of these things is going to help you drive your business forward. So is anybody that thinks that this is going to be, well, I don't want to work in my 9-to-5 job anymore, I'll just start my own business and then it'll be okay. It doesn't work like that. It's more stressful in my eyes. It's more stressful and more hours put in, but widely more rewarding when you're doing it, because it's for you and it's for your family. Now, the stress part is when you're laying awake at night wondering how you're going to make payroll or your own payroll or pay the mortgage, or you hope this one job comes in. But you know what? That's part of the fun. That's part of the fun. So what about your market? Where are you? How are you going to get to this point? So when you're thinking about the market, and this goes back to my good friend, the carnival food operator. I know that he thought long and hard about this, and I know he had I don't even know this guy, but I've made him up in my head. And it's a guy in my world because, it seems like carnival food and I don't think if he was married, I think at some point his spouse would have said, "What the hell are you doing?" But off he went. So was there demand or interest in your product and service? And he was like, yes, people love carnival food at the carnival, not 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, but is there a demand or interest in your product or service? Now, we talked about the ubiquitous iPhone. There wasn't a market for that. Steve Jobs created a market for us. Now, their cell phones were around. I'm old enough to have had one mounted in my car, so I look like a 1980s guy from some movie with the antenna on the back and everything. Then I had the brick phone, that never gets old, seeing a guy with a brick phone. And then I had the flip phone, which honestly I think that was the best phone ever. You keep it. Of course, remember back in the 80s, we're all wearing suits every day. So I got the flip phone in my pocket. You pull that out, you're looking like a superstar. But so they've been around forever. But then he decided, well, not a flip phone, not a BlackBerry. I'm going to make a phone that just looks like a like a black piece of glass, and people are going to love it. And lo and behold, they did. So he kind of created a market in some ways. But as we're starting our small business, unless you have, as they call it, a disruptive technology that's going to take over the world, you have to think to yourself, is there a demand for this, and can I make a business out of it? Which, okay, let's assume there is. Yes, people like carnival food. What's the market size? Might have been where he missed the mark a little bit on the carnival food. What size is the market? How many people are interested in what you want to sell? Because this also, we talked earlier about our friend that had a client that had the gym, and he was going to start. He's got a wonderful why. He's a great trainer. He's got a great personality. He has clients, but as he went through the process with Fatina, he was also smart enough to realize at that moment the market size wasn't big enough for him to move forward with his business at that time. He knew the size of the market. He knew how many clients he had. He also knew how many thousands of dollars it was going to be to open this standalone facility for the number of clients he had at that moment. So the market size just wasn't big enough for him then. Now he's continuing to grow it. He actually just did with Fatina, he just did a kids camp during our summer session here. And all these kids learned how to be entrepreneurs. They wanted to come back a second day. So he's got a great way about him, and I know he'll ultimately be successful, but he's also smart enough to know at that moment in time, he wasn't going to throw good money after bad by opening a gym that wasn't going to be successful in his eyes, soon enough. And he didn't have enough money to ride through, what could have been some dark times. So how many people are interested in what you sell? Well, is there a market for it where you live? Now, if there isn't, maybe there's another place you can open. Maybe there's an online world you can tap into. But that's all things you need to determine as you go through this. And yes, you can do some research, and we'll talk a little bit about that. There are economic indicators also for the things you're going to sell. What's the income level in your area? And what's the employment rate? Can people buy what it is you're selling? We talked about people who want to sell $1 million real estate. Well, they don't come to Morris. We don't have $1 million real estate in Morris other than farms. And there's not that many of them for sale. If you're looking for actual, physical homes, single family homes that are $1 million and up, we're not the place you want to be. Joliet has some, but again, probably not the place you want to be. You want to move to a place, or at least operate in a place where these $1 million homes are 90% of the market, not 10% of the market. So you also need to understand what the income level is for the people that you're going to be selling to. Is it basically a middle? You're going for a middle income market? Well, then have at it, because there's many people that can afford what you sell as long as there's a demand for it. There's a market size that there's enough people there to buy what you're selling, and also the economic indicators say that they have enough money to buy it. Well, then okay, those are all green lights. I think again, coming from a small town, you have to be, and that's why we don't have a lot of I'll call it big box stores or a lot of other stuff in Morris, because big companies do market research. They look at our economic indicators. They look at how many human beings there are in the Morris community and surrounding community. And they say to themselves, you know what, even if we put a target there, there's not enough human beings to come to buy enough stuff at our target to make it financially viable at this time. How far can we draw? Okay, well, there's a target in Joliet. There's a target in Peru. And then between basically Morris and Peru is a lot of farmland and goats and cows and corn. So even though I'm stunned at how many cities there are, they're all about as many people as there are in this room. There just isn't a lot of humans out there, which is good news for all of us because we got to grow corn somewhere. And from my neighborhood, a lot of corn this year and some soybeans. Last year, I think it was a lot of soybeans and some corn. So we got that going for us. So you got to be thinking about these things, because you just can't just run off and do things when they're not going to make sense. Another one, and now this gets more into the brick and mortar, but it also has to do with, okay, where do you live? And do you live near a post office if you're doing online marketing? If you live in the cornfield and you got to drive into Morris every day, and it's a 25-minute drive each way, well, that could have an impact on your business. But location, where do your clients live? And how far of a reach do you have? So where do they live, and how far can you reach out to get them? Back to the Target example. Okay, where are the people that they need? Well, they need a lot of human beings to pack a Target. We have it at Walmart Supercenter, but their marketing plan all along, this goes back to the 80s. I mean, I was I had a friend when I got out of college, I had a friend who was working in Dallas in an engineering firm. He invited me down to Dallas for the weekend, which I will admit involved a lot of drinking and going to football games. But in the 1980s, you could drink and drive in Texas with open liquor and have a gun in the car. So I was stunned when he picked me up at the airport. He did not have a gun, just for the record. But when I went there, he said it was on Saturday morning. He said, I have to go check out this building we're working on. I did just some design work on. He said, you probably never heard of it. It's like a Southern Kmart. It's called a Walmart. And I'm like, nope, never heard of it. And now you can't swing at anything without hitting a Walmart. But our Walmart but their market plan all along was go to small towns and draw from everywhere. We'll build a big place that has everything, and people will drive from miles around to come to it. And they were right, because their market, they built it that way to start with. Others, not so much. You're not going to find a Meijer in Morris, but again, it's a little higher end store. They need economic indicators that are not Morris. They need people with more money, and they need a lot of people to come in and buy all this stuff. So where do you live, and are your clients there? Are they nearby if you're going to sell to them directly? I mean, you're talking about bakery. It's hard to mail that, right? You need people nearby that are going to buy this stuff. And how many of them are there? How many parties? And these days, I think there's a lot more consumers of things. I mean, back in the day, and again, I'm showing my age, but when my wife and I got married, they were having a bridal shower, and they wrapped up nuts and little netting and tied a ribbon around it, and there you go. There's your bridal favor or whatever. And they all made food and they brought punch. But now it's like a whole thing. There's cakes with their names on them and cake pops, and there's more stuff than you can imagine. So there's more stuff to sell, but are they close enough for you to sell it? That's nothing wrong with that. Another one is market saturation. How many similar options exist? Now, we're all aware of the phenomenon of when you drive down the street, if you see a McDonald's, if you turn your head, you're going to see a Wendy's, a Burger King, and maybe even a Culver's, because they tend to bunch up because they're on one side of the street, the other side of the street. If you like McDonald's, you might not like Burger King, so they kind of jam together. But they've also learned, because they're marketers and they spend a lot of money researching this, that they know where people are, and market saturation doesn't matter if it's different products, even though they're slightly different. They know that Wendy's can survive. And then in Morris, there's a Wendy's, a Burger King, a Culver's, and a McDonald's within about a quarter of a mile of each other. The only one that looks like it should close is Burger King, and it's looked like that for 19 years.
Yeah, it's like that everywhere.
But it's still open. So I don't know. I'm not sure how that works, but I don't know Burger King. So so you have to. How many similar options exist and okay, again, you're a small business now in downtown Morris. Again, we have, and I'm going to be a bit of a generalist. We have more women's and knick-knacky shops than I thought could ever exist in one location. But every time we go to another town, Geneva, Lake Geneva, Galena, the same thing. We walk down the street and it's like walking down, even in New Orleans, about every 15 feet, there's a daiquiri shop. Well, you need a daiquiri about every 15 feet in New Orleans, but that isn't market saturation means different things to different people. Now, if you had a bunch of places that made cake pops all along, that's going to be trouble. But you need to think about, okay, what do I have in my shop that's different than the knick-knacky shop next door? And yes, they are the ones in Morris are different. They are having the different knick-knacky stuff and different clothing appeal to different generations. So that's what you need to think about. Walk around. If you're going to open a brick and mortar store, walk around. I want to open a store in wherever. Walk around and see what's there. You can talk to people. I worked on this presentation. A lot of it came from the different people that give these things, but one was Priscilla Cordero, who runs the Joliet City Center Partnership here in Joliet. And she works with people all the time because the city center is very, very closely defined. And so the competition down here can be intense if people start stacking up on top of each other. So one of the things she works with them on is, let's look at the traffic. Let's look at who's walking by your store. And and we'll talk about that in a moment. So, that location is critical. And as I told you before, there's one place in Morris where there's been like 5 restaurants. I drive by it all the time, but I got to make a left and go a little bit to get to it. And apparently nobody wants to do that because that place is never popular. It just isn't. So you might, there's Beside market saturation, location, just like in real estate, is critical for a business. Now, pricing. How much do clients currently pay for your services? That's also something you need to research. Look around, walk in the shop, ask a question. It's not, you're being a little nosy, but you got to know. If the market is charging, I'll use bakery, and I won't get this right. Let's say it's a fancy cake, beautifully designed, lots of, they want pictures on it and all kinds of stuff. And you say, you know what, this took me a little while. Yeah, I'm going to charge them $25. And then you find out that they're selling these at the Morris Bakery for like $70. Like, whoa, don't do that. Do not underprice yourself. Because once you're the low cost provider, you're low cost provider. You can't then decide I'm going to raise it to $70. You're going to say, well, I bought your cake, it was $35 and it was beautiful. It wasn't $70 like these guys. Well, maybe you come in at 65, but you got to be careful about your pricing. It goes back to the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, place, and promotion. And price is critical because you got to get that right the first time. Because once you go down that path, it's really tough to unring that bell. They talk about life cycles in traditional marketing classes, and when I was a young man, Miller High Life was a premium beer. It was a champagne of bottled beers, as it says on the bottle, and so it was a high-priced beer relatively. In those days. Now you can get a 30-pack for like $10. Its life cycle has gone the way that all life cycles go, and now it's become basically a low-priced volume beer that anybody can buy. Some do have a resurgence. Pabst Blue Ribbon was one that kind of got popular again with the cool kids, and so it got a little bit of resurgence. It's even on tap in our local American Legion. Miller High Life is not, unfortunately. But pricing is something I told you I did it myself. I came from an engineering firm where our prices were too low really for my market, but rather than just jacking off right away, I ran scared and left the prices the same, and I've been living with those prices for 21 years, or at least relative terms, because I didn't all of a sudden double them, which I should have been 21 years ago. So pricing is something you got to think through. What's everybody else charging? How can I find out? You can ask, or you know what? The internet is a wonderful thing in that way. So pricing is something you got to be very careful about. Now, I was going to say break out in pairs to talk about your market, but I know we got a lot to get to, so we may save any chatting till the end just because I want to make sure we get through all of really good material, including Chris's, which is critical. Now, your ideal client, thinking about all these things: where do they live? How much do they earn? You got to get in their head. If you're going to be able to make a living out of the thing you're going to sell, you got to understand who your client is, where the market is, and how much of the stuff you need to sell to eat. If you're selling something that costs $1, you got to sell a lot of things for $1 to make a living. A lot of things. And honestly, many times you break it down that way. We say, okay, you're making this product, whatever it is. Let's talk about haircuts. I work with a lot of barbers, it seems. So let's say a barber. Let's say a haircut. You go to Great Clips, what, $20 maybe? So $20 at Great Clips, they understand it. It's a volume business. They got to crank them through. That's why you can make online appointments. That's why they'll text you when your appointment's coming up, because they want heads coming through that thing all the time. So if that's the way you're going to run your business, great. Well, then you got to have a line of clients coming through. But are there enough clients there to do it? And how much do I need to earn? Well, if my rent is $2,000, and then I got this, I got insurance, I got utilities, I got to buy stuff, I got to do this, I got to do that. Let's say it costs, just before before I open the door on the first of the month, I need $4,000 just to cover my expenses. $4,000 to $5,000 before I cover my expenses. If I'm charging $10 a haircut, I got to cut a lot of hair just to cover my expenses. And then I actually want to eat. So probably another $4,000, to cover my mortgage and my car payment and all the other things at least. And that's gross. That's not even net. So now I got to have double that. So it's like, oh boy. And that's what the gentleman who was talking about opening the gym came to. He goes, well, I need to have so much money on every time I open the door every month for the next 2 to 3 years, because that's how long my lease is. Can I do this? Well, that's a good way to look at it. How many cakes do I need to bake? How many clients do I need to have? How many contracts do I need? How much food do I need to sell? I got to admit, I'm fascinated every time I go in a restaurant. Fascinated. because I look and see, okay, my meal, I went to a place this weekend, which is a small place in Joliet, which is fantastic. And the special was blackened pork chop with a blue cheese sauce, asparagus, and a baked potato. And it was phenomenal. It was $23. Okay. How many of those $23 pork chops do they need to sell? Because they got cooks, we got the owner, they got servers, they had it's a white tablecloth restaurant. It's beautiful, but how much is, I'm thinking to myself, how do they do it? How do they know what to sell? How do they know how much to buy? And when they don't sell it, I would just cry in the back. But that's people that run restaurants are they're like wizards to me. But you got to know how much do I need to sell of all this stuff to be able to make a living. So that's all. I need to know where those clients in and how much do I need to earn. What's your client's why? Well, now you're trying to become a swami, really. But that's also, I know that, one of the things you were just talking about over this weekend was pedicures. One, because my wife wants to get one, and two, because she looked at my feet and said, "You need a pedicure." But, I'm like, they look good from here. My eyes aren't that good, but and then what do they care about? Okay, and it changes all the time, doesn't it? Before COVID, it was one thing. During COVID, life changed. They cared about a lot of different stuff. I know in my world, things came crashing down all around my ears. And even post-COVID, things have changed. People their spending habits aren't the same. That, mortgage rates aren't the same. It costs more for us to go to the store because everybody's still using the old supply chain BS that you can't get it because of this or because of that. So things have changed. So what do they care about now? How does that affect your business? And why would they buy from you? That gets back to your why. Why would they buy from you? In this world of, and I'll use Morris as an example, in this world of women's clothing stores down there, why would they buy from my clothing store? Do I have something unique here? Is it my personality? They want to come and see me because I'm unique? Excuse me. Or is my clothing unique? Is my pricing compelling? It's probably going to be the selection, more than likely. And also that you're a good person to come and buy from. They enjoy coming in the store. They enjoy the conversation. There's a men's clothing store there that, and I use that term loosely, but I go in there and buy stuff from him because honestly, he's overpriced, if anything. But I like the guy and he has unique stuff. So I'll go and spend a little more because I'm not going to see it on anybody else. He buys stuff. He only sells clothes that he would buy. That's how he does it. And not a lot of them. Because mostly he's an embroiderer, really. That's how he makes his money. And you don't even see that part of the operation. That's in the basement or whatever. But and then in the front, it's a men's shop and they sell a bunch of like Morris High School embroidered stuff. But so why would they buy from me? What's unique about me? And Chris will help crack that nut in a minute. Just 3 under the bus. And then your ideal business location. Where's your client live? Everything varies by location. I would look. My friend the barber that was looking for locations. She was one for $800 and then one for $3,000. Well, that's a lot more haircuts, isn't it? But you got to go where the people are. And what are the wages in your area? Some communities, okay, in Morris, you can get by with probably $15, $18 an hour. But if you move up closer to where Amazon is, now you're competing with Amazon. You're competing, even in Morris, they compete with Costco. Jewel lost a bunch of employees when the Costco expanded their plant, and it isn't a Costco store. It's a warehouse. We have a big meat production facility in Morris for Costco, and they're paying $25, $28 an hour. And so people were leaving the stores, the regular stores like in Jewel and Walmart, because they could get a job for $28 an hour working at Costco. It's a job that I'm not saying a job's a job, but if you can make more money, a lot of people are gonna say, listen, I can work in the deli here, I can work on an assembly line in Costco and make $10 more an hour. So that's important again when you're doing this math. Value of the property. Are you going to buy it? Are you going to lease? Now, overwhelmingly, we're probably going to lease, but then you got to look at the lease, and that's where the commercial realtor would come in to help you with those kind of things. You don't want to jump. You don't want to jump before you are well informed. It's very important to be careful about that. Before you do anything, lease, purchase, build. We have a client that's likely going to they're leasing now. They're likely going to build. But when they do that, I would call it an industrial operation, where they're going to have to make sure that before you start doing anything crazy, you got to think about your zoning requirements. And the young lady that opened a tattoo shop in Wilmington, one of her problems was when she looked at the places she wanted to open, she was prohibited from opening where she wanted to open because many communities look at tattoo shops as some kind of a, We don't like that. We don't want it downtown. We don't want the kids seeing it. The world has changed, but not that much. And so a lot of tattoo shops have to be in literally industrial areas. She didn't want to be in an industrial area. So she found another community, in this case, Wilmington. She's right on the main street because it's a woman-owned shop with a specific, she knew her why. She wanted it to be woman-owned, woman-friendly, no pressure, come in. It's not going to be, and I don't mean this literally, but it's not going to be a bunch of sweaty men, cursing and getting tattoos. It's going to be a different atmosphere. And I'm in the main street in my community, and come on in and we'll take care of it. So she had her why figured out. She knew what she wanted to be. She also knew what she wanted to be. Before she signed a lease, you don't want to sign a lease somewhere and go, oh crap, that's in an industrial area. I'm not going to have any foot traffic at all. Mm-hmm. Now, is it critical? Maybe not. But where she is getting foot traffic. She is getting people to come in and look because it's a beautiful space, and people they're curious because they can walk by. And then there are incentives, and again, this is just directly from Priscilla's world, because here in the Joliet City Center Partnership and many communities, even Morris, they have incentives involved. There are tax increment financing districts where you might be able to get a little money. Here in downtown Joliet, in the Joliet City Center Partnership, if you open a space here, there are grants to help you build out your space. There are grants to help you get signage. Now, is it going to build out your space? No, but it might be a few $1,000s to help you cover the cost once it's over. You do it and you do it well, they'll come and take a look and they may get a grant. You put up for signage, you may get a grant. So there are incentives in a lot of communities, and you can look at those before you go there. Talk to the people, talk to the, wherever it is, Grundy County Chamber of Commerce, City of Morris, City of Joliet, Joliet City Center Partnership, wherever you're going, start asking questions before you sign leases or build, because there may be incentives you're just not aware of. And they do exist, and they can be lucrative. Again, it's not going to be enough for you to go, oh, great, I'm set for a year, but it might help offset the cost of a few things, that's always a nice change. Now, other considerations, and again, we're kind of focused more on brick and mortar and maybe that's more densely populated there. Again, the competition, who's nearby, parking and accessibility. If they're coming to see you, and I had an issue with one of our clients, the barber, she was looking at downtown Joliet, one of the buildings. Well, the fact of the matter the building she wanted to be in wasn't a lot of accessible parking. As a matter of fact, the one parking lot, it's right across from Rialto. The Rialto is down the street. Across the street right now is parking. Well, they're going to turn that into green space. That parking is going away. And she was thinking about renting in one of the buildings right there. And so that whole parking lot's going to be gone. Now, there's plenty of parking in the parking deck right behind it. But, some people get sketchy about parking on parking decks. They want to park on the street. They want to park right by where they're going to go. So that became a concern for her. And that's also something you guys need to think about if you go brick and mortar. And how accessible is it? Oh, for instance, if you knew you're going to have a lot of disabled clients, you want to make sure there's handicap access both in your space and for parking. And so you need to think about the accessibility of getting into these spaces. Because some of the older buildings too, they're not really friendly to disabled people. And they can't be because they're so old. Some of the elevators aren't even big enough to get a wheelchair in some of the old elevators downtown in Joliet and in the city of Chicago. Now, this one I'm not going to go into because I'm not Priscilla, but because of the role she has, she's the executive director of the Joliet City Center Partnership. And this data is available out there. There's actually traffic analysis you can have done. How many cars are going by my place every day? That's the kind of stuff that's where really deep marketing comes into play, which isn't a bad thing. How much traffic is there going by this space? Because on this corner, there might be a ton of traffic, 1 block east, 1 block west, 1 block north, 1 block south, might change completely. So knowing the traffic analysis might be helpful in that situation. And it is available from the Joliet City Center Partnership. And certainly, once you guys, after these classes are over, if you want to make one-on-one appointments, we can access that via Priscilla. And then just go and look, stand around, see what's going on down there. I told one of my clients, we'll walk around downtown Joliet, see what places feel good to you. When I bought my house, I walked around the neighborhood at the back of the lots to see which one I liked better, which one had the right view for me. I live in the middle of nowhere, but it's a rural golf course I live on. But I didn't want to be too near the tee boxes so I could hear the swearing, and I didn't want to be too near the tees or the greens, also the swearing. I also didn't want to have a lot of balls landing in my yard. And I walked around. I looked on the lots to see, because they're full of golf balls back then, because there was no houses. And my next door neighbor ended up getting, and they're still getting like pummeled. And they're like, oh my God, there's someone. I'm like, oh, you bought it. I mean, you could ask that guy, and he's got a pool, and they landed in the pool, almost hit them in the head, Now, we still live it's a really bad shot to get to where we live, but also just the aesthetics of it. What's it look like, And so it's so different with your space. Walk around, get a feel for it. Just don't look at Google and just pick someplace. Go, like I said, the smell test. Does it feel like the right space for you? You're going to come here every day for a long time, so make sure it feels right. And also how many people are going by. It's not quantifiable data, but it's certainly worth going and checking things out. And then again, we talked about the financial incentives on the last slide a little bit. There's grants like they have in the Joliet City Center partnership. Tax increment financing, that sounds weird, but especially with some cities that are really trying to bring people in, they'll forgive your taxes for a long time. They'll give you, especially in big developments, they'll say, well, we're not going to charge you taxes for the next 25 years. It's real, and that's what like the Bears are trying to get in Arlington Heights and bigger, and they'll actually start one of these just to lure bigger companies in. Morris is trying to do some of the things now, the Grundy County area. And then enterprise zones, they're just another kind of incentive to get people to move in, because nobody's living there. They want them to come downtown. That's why the Joliet City Center partnership exists in some ways. They're trying to bring the downtown back again. And when I first started working, I was 17 years old. I was moving one of the stores out of downtown, out to the Louis Joliet Mall, which is now that's cratering. And so we want people to come back downtown again. So they're trying to draw people back in. They're talking about more residential housing. Well, what do we need down here if there's residential housing? We're going to need grocery stores. We're going to need restaurants. We're going to need shops. Well, all the things that come when there's human beings living together, they kind of just come out of nowhere when there's enough people around that need it. So all things to think about when you're thinking of location. Now, well, I'm doing all this from home. Why do I need to care? We still got to sell stuff to somebody, whether you're working on a brick and mortar or not. Now, yes, these are much more brick and mortar, but it's something to keep in mind should you ever make that next step. Now, as we make this head snapping change from talking about a location and marketing is the magic that you need in order to make your world work. And I got to admit, even though I went to school for marketing, many days I go, what the hell is marketing? And so I found a video clip that helps us see what marketing is. So let's take a little look at this before we move on to the next situation.
Marketing. We hear about it a lot. Like digital marketing, e-com, direct marketing, email marketing, social media marketing. So what exactly is it? Well, if you look it up on Google, the definition is the action or business of promoting and selling products and services, including market research and advertising. According to the American Marketing Association, marketing is the act, set of institutions, and process of creating, communicating, delivering, and presenting an exchange of offers that have value for clients, co-partners, and the society itself. So in layman's terms, marketing is the process of communicating to clients and customers a solution to their problem. Basically, marketing is a way for you to show the value of your product or services to the right clients that could use them. Now, there are two major types of marketing, traditional and modern. Now, traditional marketing is probably what you'd think of when you look at a billboard on a highway, or you see an ad on TV, or you hear an advertisement on the radio. Traditional marketing is typically a spray and pray type of marketing where you basically send out a message to millions of people, knowing full well that only maybe a few thousand or even less might be interested in your product. Oftentimes, the focus of traditional marketing is not so much getting sales, but building brand awareness. Now, traditional marketing is still incredibly important, but there's two major problems with it. One, it's almost impossible for you to track your ROI or return on investment. And two, you're typically paying to show your marketing to a bunch of people who absolutely don't need to see it at all. And this is why over the last 20 years, with the rise of the internet and social media, you've seen a steady decline in traditional marketing and the rise of the second one we're going to talk about, which is modern marketing. Modern marketing focuses more on knowing what customers want and need, and then delivering that exact product to them. The most common form of modern marketing is known as digital marketing. And with digital marketing, you're able to identify the exact customers that need your product and show your ads only to them. And then you're able to track your return on investment down to the dollar. Some common types of digital marketing are going to be SEO, or search engine optimization, SEM, or search engine marketing, email marketing, social media marketing, and affiliate marketing. As you can imagine, digital marketing is one of the most valuable skills you can learn, whether you're trying to be an employee, a freelancer, or own your own business. And if you're interested in learning more about digital marketing, my friend Seth, who's taught thousands of people how to get jobs in digital marketing, with freelancers, did put together a free masterclass, which I'll put down in the description as well as in the comment below. You can also check out interviews I've done with people who have landed careers in digital marketing. I'll put that right here.
So, traditional marketing, and that I gotta admit, that's where I was trained, and where I lived, even when I worked for utilities for many years. I was an engineer, but then I kind of gravitated toward marketing, because that's the kind of marketing we're doing, traditional marketing. And spray and pray is the best way to put it. That's exactly what it is. I did it in my business long before digital marketing came along. I did postcards. I did targeted postcards. I sent them out to the client, basically the right people and the right companies. And I sent out thousands of postcards. I got one phone call from someone who couldn't afford me if they tried. So that was a spray, pray, and complete miss. I fell victim, and I mean that in the kindest way. WBBM AM radio contacted us and said, listen, we can get you customers if you would just have a radio ad with us around Bears games. I'm like, well, I like the Bears, and I have a face for radio, so that sounds good for me. So we decided to do that. So I went and recorded, with their help, I recorded a radio ad that was played around Bears games. And, for our efforts, we paid them a lot of money, and I got 2 tickets to a Bears game, and I got 0 customers. But I did get to go to a Bears game, so those tickets were very expensive, as it turns out. So we did some spray and pray. We've done Google ads. We have, after that, I got to admit, we got a little gun shy. That's when my partner said it. He started to joke about putting me laying on sideways on a bus, and I said no. So even though you tried to target it, because the Bears games were business oriented customers, and we tried to explain what it was he did. Not one phone call. The email the traditional mail marketing, the postcards we sent out, worked with a company, messaging. We got a list of the people we wanted to send it to. Didn't work. Spray and pray, because that's kind of what it is, and that's why there's not a magic wand to this thing. At the end of the day, the most effective marketing us was relationship marketing, where it's me rubbing up against people, making them like me, and then you like me, so you tell them. That's what's worked for us. I'm not saying the other wouldn't, because Chris would probably, if she could reach me right now, she'd probably tap me on the head and go, well, you didn't do it right. Now it's 2024, we should be doing digital marketing, social media marketing. And she's right, but when I was doing this originally with traditional marketing, that's how I was rolling. So what are some of the types of marketing? There's a lot of stuff. So Trish is going to talk more about this. Social media, I'll let her take care of that. Offline traditional marketing, did it. I did radio, but there's TV, there's newspaper ads. There's a lot of different ways to do this. You get them in the mail every day, probably. I get a flyer every week. I go through the flyers, I pull out the Jewel ad, because that's where I live, and that's where I normally shop. I pull that out. Every now and then I'll look at Menards, because I might need something, but usually it's I buy something I don't need but want, so I try to throw that one away. But they come every day or every week. Coupons, right? How about, oh yeah, the coupons. Don't forget about the coupons. That's another thing that can work. But it is spray and pray in some cases. Relationship marketing, that's what I went with. That's my strong suit, is relationship marketing. Promotional marketing. Now, gifts, raffles, free samples. I think that's another great way to do it, especially when you're trying to get people to start enjoying your product. A free sample, there's nothing wrong with that. We talked about our young lady, Nicole, the tattoo artist, and I thought her idea was great. I'm not open yet, but I'm going to sell discounted gift cards and let people start making appointments to my shop that's not open yet, and then I'll have customers. And it worked. it was, I would say it wasn't spring and pray, but she gave it a shot and it worked. Because her social media, which Chris is going to talk about, her social media was already strong because of her previous experience. She'd already been on social media a long time. She had followers. She had people who wanted to get tattoos. She just couldn't give them to them yet. So this helped bridge that gap. And then direct marketing. I do this too. Emails, phone calls. I don't do text messages. That's called SMS marketing. What the hell does SMS mean, Chris? I don't know what it is, but it's text messages. I don't know what SMS is, but I changed it and called it text messages. And I hate getting those. So I don't do that to people because they bug me. You know, I sign up for them sometimes to get the 10% off. And then as soon as it comes, I tell them to stop. But I do emails still. Every week I send out an email to all of my clients, all the people I might think might want to be clients. And I can tell you the most successful emails I ever sent by far was one I sent out accidentally that it was called test. I sent it to all these people accidentally and they all write back, got it. What was this for? You know, tell me, let me know if you need anything. So more people responded to my error than to my actual traditional emails. But every now and then I'll get somebody that'll either, after they've seen this week after week after week, that out of the blue, they'll send me a request for my services. So, I'm not saying it doesn't work because it does, but it's more of a slow drip. It's that consistency that ends up working. So, now that I've talked about some of the traditional marketing, I'm going to have Chris come up and tell you about the really important stuff, which is really, marketing in 2024, when we're talking about digital marketing and social media.
All right. Hi, guys. Don't mind me. I'm going to just read out from some of my notes because I am still kind of like more of a junior speaker. This is kind of new to me. So don't mind me if I look down here. These are my notes. So hi, my name is Christina Griffin. I work as a digital marketing intern for the Entrepreneur and Business Center. Just graduated Joliet Junior College with my associate's degree in website design and social media. And also added a couple of certificates with all the ones included before: social media, website, and website accessibility. So I've been working a couple of years professionally in my field and just personally on my own time and as a freelancer. So Jeff reeled me in today to talk about digital marketing. So let's jump right in. So first things first, marketing is a long-term investment for your future. You could have the best product or service in the world, but if no one knows about it, you aren't going to make any money from it. The second thing is that marketing tends to get glamorized as this get-rich-quick strategy. And if you're banking on the hope that one viral ad is all you need for your business and your brand is set for life, I'm going to set the record straight. Majority businesses, and small businesses at that, probably aren't going to have that experience. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but most of your marketing efforts are going to look like making a post on social media, and you might get 2 likes. It's a sad but unfortunate reality, at least at the beginning. But marketing requires repeated exposure to convert watchers into customers. In 2022, the average marketing budget was nearly 10% of a company's overall revenue, and that keeps growing. So you need a digital marketing presence. Why is that? One of the things that we can do to watch and observe how people use social media and websites is that they use those medias to inform their decisions and their purchasing. So let's do a thought experiment right now. If you are a customer and you're looking to buy a really expensive item from a company for the first time, what's the first thing you're going to do?
Search it online.
Exactly. Anybody else?
Review about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, reviews are a big one for sure. So I'm going to be looking them up on social media. I want to know if their account is inactive or super new. I'm combing over their account with a magnifying glass to see if their business looks legit or if it looks like a bot is controlling their account. I'm looking at their website and I'm paying attention to spelling errors to see if it's a fake storefront and run for scammers searching to see if it's a fake storefront. I'm searching for reviews. Okay, reviews are a huge one. I'm looking to see if the owners respond to bad reviews and if they're doing anything to proactively fix a bad customer experience. Those places where you can interact with people in real time has become a modern customer service desk. Your website and social media are what people go to research about your business, services, and products. I'm going to skip that real quick. Okay. So we just started to dive in a little bit more into social media and websites, but I wanted to cover some general tips if you're just getting started or you're starting to take your digital marketing seriously. For social media, posting consistently is key. I would say that it doesn't really matter if you're only posting once a week or once every other week. The thing that matters is that if you say people can reach me at this place and you're not active there, what does that reflect on you? If you say that people can reach you somewhere online, make sure you're active there. That may even require cutting back on the amount of business social media accounts that you own. If you have, let's say, 5 accounts and you're only active on 3, those 2 accounts that are falling to the wayside are still representing your brand. Inactivity translates to a lack of trustworthiness. Choose platforms that you know that you can regularly keep up with or schedule posts ahead of time. And this is kind of piggybacking off of the first one, but it's that you need to build a history of account reliability. What does that look like? This is especially for the new businesses that are considering boosting posts and advertising your account. You want to give yourself some time to build a backlog of content online so that you have something to invite new visitors to, that you have somewhere to invite those social media visitors or website visitors to. Let's say, for instance, if you just created your account last week and you only have 1 post live online and you want to boost a post, that's not really going to be an effective use of your marketing dollars. People are going to come to your account, they're going to see only 1 post, and that's probably going to be of you trying to sell them something, and they're going to write you off as a bot or scammer. See it all the time. People will say, hey, check out my account, and you can tell right away that it's a bot or scammer because they're like, check this thing out, and there's nothing else in their profile, there's nothing else in their account, and you're going like, yeah, I think you're trying to scam me. So these are kind of like some of the, yes.
Yeah, I'm probably them. I'm probably him. But the fact that you know all this stuff, to me, I'm the person in our department that is the outlier because I don't have a lot of this stuff. So I guess I was going to ask you a question. So if I was starting a brand new, which I don't have any social media accounts, at least personally, if I was going to start one for my small business, what would be the key ones I would want to fire up first?
It really depends on.
If I was selling retail stuff, I was selling stuff to consumers.
Probably Facebook and Instagram are the 2 classic ones.
Okay.
And those are really easy to connect each other's profiles to so that you can post instantaneously from both accounts and schedule a post ahead of time. So I would say the 2 biggest ones at the moment probably are going to be Facebook and Instagram. Okay. Add an incentive for people to follow you. I'm sorry to say, people are a little bit selfish. And they're probably not going to follow you online unless you have something that benefits them that they want to see more of. What's your it factor that would make someone want to follow you? Is it because you're entertaining? You share information that people want to know more about? Is it because it's something that you stand for or how you help others? For me personally, I'm an artist. I follow a lot of artist accounts on Instagram, Facebook, and every other place that I can follow artists at. And for me personally, the reason why I follow people is because I like their art. It gives me joy to see what they post on my timeline. So I'm going to go follow them because I'm getting something out of it. And let's shift over to websites. Make information on your website short, snappy, and to the point. You really want information to be easily digestible and easy to scan. So unless you're a good writer posting your books to your website for free, I don't want to visit your website and immediately be overwhelmed by a wall of text. You can see eyes glazing over a little bit. You're starting to nod. Yeah, you don't want that. You want your post to be quick, easy, scannable, and go, okay, like I can get the gist of what they're about. I can see what they're selling. Like I understand what they're trying to do here. And the best way to do that is to make it easily digestible, easy to scan. And if you do have a lot of content to share, like this is my story, this is my about section, like I would say, especially if you do tend to write a wall of text, it would be fixed by good spacing into like paragraphs so that you aren't met with just a huge wall of text and you aren't going, I'm gonna be here all day. Magically, the moment you break it up into paragraphs, people go like, oh yeah, this is so much easier to read. Your site navigation should not be confusing. Opt for a simple and clean design. The deeper you have to go into submenus, like click onto this thing, click onto this thing, the more that you rabbit trail and it snowballs off into a different direction, the harder it is for people to find out where they're located on your site and how to get the information they need. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. For example, Josie, I'm going to use you as an example. I'm sure you can tell someone how cute your cookies are. And all of the designs that you offer, but seeing and experiencing it with my own eyes is going to be a completely different story. It's impactful and it makes you more memorable if I can see it with my own eyes. Using pictures, visuals, drawings, being able to visually tell a story on your website is infinitely more powerful than just describing it.
Well, Chris is, go ahead.
I was just had a question. Would you suggest, as far as websites are concerned, hiring like a private company or a particular person, or going through like Wix or WebNode or something like that?
I would say it's probably a good thing to use a previously already.
With the template?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's because there's going to be more references online for you to use. If for whatever reason you can't use a web developer and you need to do your own work, like there are more resources for you through a template versus someone coming in, building it all for you, and you don't know what the heck they're doing. So it gives you a backup plan.
And I'll promote Chris a little bit here. One of the services that we, I guess, we dole her out for is basic. It's sort of a website basic. So, you know, if you're a client of ours and you get to the point where you're building your website, but one of the things that Chris does really, really well is she'll sit down with someone and say, okay, you've got your domain name, and let's talk about building. How would you build your website? So she can show you the basics of it. Now, all of us, me, at least not all of us, but me anyway, I might be able to do the basics of it, but if I want to do it better, then that's where you'll move on to that next phase of hiring someone, which actually Chris is going to shortly become a contractor and not an EBC employee. So we'll be bringing her back to do it anyway, but she does this professionally as well. But having her kind of sit down and show you that basic thing where you don't put somebody in a car and just say, okay, drive it. She will show you where the brake is and the gas and,
I'd like to add to that. I've already worked with Chris, and honestly, it was more about translating and trying to help me understand a little bit better how to navigate that so that I am successful with it, and then the do's and don'ts. Like I was ready to boost, and then she's like, hold on a second, and she's right about the visuals. Like I get more likes on visuals than anything. So we're continuing to navigate through that to make it bigger and bigger. And it's definitely a slow build, a drip, just like Jeff says. And I thought, oh, well, this is working. It's just a lot to consume all at once. And thank you for your help, by the way.
Of course. Websites are a core piece of your brand that you control. Okay, the biggest thing about websites is that it's something that you can control. The unfortunate thing about social media is that it's temporary. MySpace turned into a ghost town, Vine is dead, and there's currently a huge political push to get TikTok banned. But your site, in theory, can stand the test of time regardless of whatever social media trend or platform rises and falls. So the thing about that level of permanency and control is that it can cost you a pretty penny. Majority of web developers will charge anything in the $300 to $1,500 plus for just a website, basic website. You might be able to look out and find a student or a fresh web developer right out of college willing to charge you less, but it is the exception and not the rule. It does cost a lot upfront to get your website started, which is part of the reason why at the EBC we do offer help and training for your own website so that you can kind of get your own feet underneath you and you're not going in completely blind. And so if you can't pay for a web developer, we can at least help you get started getting that done. Another thing that you might need to consider is that maybe your site needs to be maintained with updates like regular sales. You might have something going on about Christmas, maybe something about Valentine's Day. What about Easter? How about 4th of July? Like all these different key sales points during the year. Maybe you need to update your site. And so there are a couple of different updates that people can offer. You can work with quarterly updates, so with the change of the seasons, monthly updates for all of the core things going on in that month, and then weekly updates. But the more frequent the updates, it'll be more expensive over time. And it's not going to be as expensive as your website first is. Like that's a huge charge up front. But the websites do cost a little bit money. They're going to be within the $20 to $50 range, maybe right around there. And so it's not going to be as expensive, but that does build up over time, and that's something that you might need to factor in.
I think Chris's original point of, 10% of your gross sales has to go to marketing. And I will admit that was one thing that I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I gotta spend that kind of money on marketing? Well, guess what? As Chris has in her slide here, it takes money to make money. If you're not taking care of your website, you're not paying the money to have it be accessible. I'm sure that, one of the Chris, if nobody can find you, then you're not going to sell it. So it is an investment, unfortunately.
And website accessibility. So as a small business owner that's open to the public, you do have a legal responsibility to make your website as accessible as to many people as you possibly can. There's a disclaimer here. I'm not a lawyer. I can't advise you on what legal steps to take if you're in hot water with website accessibility, but as someone who does have a certificate, I was trained about some of the pitfalls that you'll regularly experience in website development. I want to raise awareness of some of the common website accessibility pitfalls that you will see. So, visual disabilities. If someone can't see your website, like blurry vision, like almost everyone has prescription glasses. If you have tiny text on your website and you're going like, and really struggling hard to see what's on that website, like that's an accessibility issue. If you have color blindness, I'm going to skip to this slide really quick here. But if you have color blindness and say, for example, that there is information on your website that you want to share with people, and let's say you're trying to convey that information through color, like green is good, red is bad, but the people with color blindness are missing those context clues, and that information is now inaccessible to them. And there's a lot of different kinds of color blindness too. There's, what is that? Yeah, blind to green, blind to red, blind to blue. You can have a mix of all of them. There's a lot of issues that come with color blindness, and that, say for instance, like you need really good contrast, like from dark background, light words, or light words, dark background, or light background, dark words. It's some of the things that you kind of like have to keep in the back of your head as you're starting to build out your website. If someone is blind, can they still navigate your site? Do you have graphics or invitations where only people who can see that information, is that accessible to them? There's a lot of different things just within the vision realm, right? There's a lot of different things to think about. Physical disabilities. How about shaky hands? Like my dad in particular, like I've never seen a guy with like such shaky hands. Like he's trying to move everything. He can't even write his own signature. So what is he going to do if there's a very tiny link that he needs to click on a website? He can't do it because now he's shaking all over the place. That hit zone is so tiny to where wherever that link is going to take him, that's now inaccessible to him. Loss of limbs. Some people don't even have hands. Some people can't navigate websites normally using hands, using limbs, all of these different things. Now, there are different ways that people can access this information, like through keyboard commands. I've also seen people like use something that they put in their mouth and then they use their mouth to tap where they need to go. But it's one of the other things that you need to think about. Can people access your website even if they don't have their arms or hands? And audio disabilities. So if someone has impaired hearing and there's something, and you're a musician, let's say for instance, you're a musician on your website and you automatically have music playing in the background. People aren't going to know that there's music automatically playing in the background of your site. Like it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it may be harder or impossible for them to enjoy, but it's still like they need to know that something is going on in the background, because what if they're in a quiet situation like at the library and then they go to your site and now that's blasting everywhere. They can't hear it, but now it's everyone else is disabled because of that. Like they don't know what's going on in the background. Or how about if you have videos playing on your website or your social media and they're like, I can't read what's happening. There's no closed captions. Like, I don't know what you're saying. Like, maybe I can do some lip reading, but that's always like, that could be hard to guess. It may be inaccurate. And so we do recommend to hire a web developer who at least has some type of understanding of Americans with Disabilities Act laws. So ADA laws, you want someone to be aware of some of the common issues that people might have accessing websites. Now, I will say a good chunk of accessibility features already tend to be built in if you're using a pre-established website builder that's on the market, like Wix, like Squarespace, like I don't know, WordPress. So there's some of that already built in. It's not perfect, but it will give you like a good home base. But we do overall recommend to work with someone who does have that understanding, just because they're going to be aware of some of the things that you might not either experience or know to look for. And so
This is a good, I mean, this is where I wanted to pull over and ask any questions you might have at this point. I mean, what Chris was talking about with, even with the disabilities thing, I'll be honest with you, I've been teaching online classes here for 15 years. There's always this little guy down in the corner with a giant number by his head. And I didn't really know what that was for. And then, because during COVID, when we also had to start teaching online, it was basically the Wild West. Like, you need to put your classes online, just get them online and let's go. But when COVID was over, all of us had to make all of our online classes go through a very rigorous approval process. And the first time I went through my class and turned it in, they're like, well, you've got like 7,000 accessibility problems with your class. It was an insane amount. Now, most of them were easily correctable, but a lot of them were colors. A lot of them were the size of the font.
mhm.
But those kind of things you don't think about until they happen. Now, those of you that are on Instagram and TikTok, you're used to seeing closed caption on the bottom all the time now.
Mhm.
But that is a nod to the fact that not everybody can hear your TikTok video, your Instagram story. So the world is slowly getting better with that. On my online classes, I do lectures, which I'm sure are fascinating to the students. I try to keep them short, but even those are automatically captioned now for every lecture I put up. Now, I have to go through and double check because sometimes it turns normal words into swears. And so I have to make sure that. But accessibility is a much bigger issue all the time. Now, you think as a small business owner, like, where does my responsibility stop? Well, it doesn't. You're always stuck trying to figure something out. But I can tell you that, Chris's work in websites, I think is critical because me as a consumer, when I go to find a company, I gotta admit, I want a website. Facebook is to me, it's like looking into the abyss. I can't tell between all the pictures and the posts and the this and the that, even Instagram. I want to see a website where I can navigate myself. And to me, it gives it more of an air of this is a real company. It's a real company because it's got a website. I know that doesn't make any sense necessarily in this day and age, but it gives it more of a sense of permanency. Like, these people mean to be in business for a while, and I can see about them. In the social media world, to me, it's like, you're only going to see what I want you to see. But if I tell you my story in my about page, well, I can learn about. Now I can see. Now I can learn more about you. I can take some time looking through that page, looking at all the stuff that's available without having to click through 1,000 things on Facebook and Instagram. But that's me. I'm a different demographic than younger people. But and this is a great opportunity to ask Chris any questions you may have for her about her social media. She does our social media here at EBC, which went from 0 to having how many these followers now? From 0?
Quite a few.
Yeah, quite a
At
few.
least active.
And then now we have regular posts all the time. Now there's always stories going out. Now we have downstairs, we have a rolling video going all the time that shows the things we've done in the EBC, which Chris is now working up and updating again. We went from 0 to having a lot of social media and a lot better exposure, which is exactly what a business has to do. So any questions you have, please feel free.
I have no question only because I make appointments at all the time.
Yes.
So I struggle with marketing. So just like how often, because like I have social media accounts. Sometimes I just find it annoying to always have to post.
Yeah.
So like, what would you suggest? Like, I know you said to be consistent with your posting. Like, would you say like 3 times a week, or I know some people post every day, and I know they do content ahead of time and then they roll it out.
Yes.
So what would you say is a good number per week to post?
I would say in general, usually run around 3 to 4 times a week. But if that's not something that you can keep up with, like we live in the real world, there's a lot of different things going on in our lives at any given moment. So sometimes that's not realistic, but at least getting something out at least once a week is preferred than nothing.
Thank you.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to add about disability conversation is that able body is actually only temporary. Like if you think about it, like we get older as people, there's a lot of issues that come with getting older. There's a lot of different life situations, like say for instance, people with wheelchairs may not be able to access your building, but what about moms with strollers? What about like all these different things that we think about, or audio impairments? Like say for instance, I'm on social media and I'm supposed to be in a quiet place, and even though I don't have an audio disability, I still can't listen to it because I'm supposed to be in a quiet place. But the moment you put closed captions on your content, is now I can read and watch and consume even in that quiet place. So it's really kind of like thinking about like, yes, it helps people with disabilities, but also it just grows your market exponentially, and it helps like reach more people regardless of whatever situation they're in.
You know, those people standing in line that are staring at their phones can actually, without having the music, without having the sound playing.
Exactly.
I'm sure they're looking at some type of content. And if the closed caption is there, now they can consume your post, whatever it is. I have learned a lot, working with Chris and the other people here. And to me, one of the things they keep hammering to me over and over again was her message of consistency. Like you said, is it 3 times a week or 1 time a week? As long as it's consistent, that's what I've been drilled on, is being consistent. And that's one of the things I struggle with as a human, because I'm consistently inconsistent. I don't, like I'm on LinkedIn, but you won't find anything because I haven't posted anything, because then I'd have to be consistent about it. But if you run a small business, mine is not a consumer business, so I don't feel the need to do it. But I don't doubt that I would have been more successful ultimately if I had built a presence right when it started. It's never too late. But those are the things that I think, especially and Chris has taught me this too, is that it isn't always a pitch. It should be entertaining. Should be telling, maybe giving an insight into your business and how you do it. We have these young ladies that probably said this already, but they make these little flowers. And I sent them an email last week because my wife bought some flowers from them, and they were at a show last week. And I thought I knew they were fake, but I thought they were silks because it's a rose, and it's not as big as a Tootsie Pop, and there's like 1,000 petals in it, and they're these little clay petals they make, and they put it together one at a time. I'm like, and I said, I don't know how the hell you did it, but I said I would love to see a video, like one of them sped up videos of you guys making that little flower. I think it would be fascinating, and it wouldn't be a sales thing, but it would be informative so people can see how this thing was created. And those are the things that it's like, that should be part of your social media, kind of making the case, showing when things go bad. Here's one, there's another young lady we work with. She was making cake pops, and about half of them went to hell, because making a cake pop is more of a pain in the rear end than I knew. And showing the failures is fun too, because you're learning from it, but it's also entertaining at some level. So putting out content is not about sales. It's about drawing a following. And yes, you can have a sales pitch in there once in a while, but people want to be entertained and learn about you, not necessarily get a sales pitch every time.
Mhm.
I have a question.
Yes.
If we were to post a video like on Instagram or Facebook, is there a feature that it automatically goes to closed caption?
I believe that, I think so.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, but I believe so.
And then another question, who is following up on the websites to make sure that they are following these guidelines?
That's a really good question. Let's see here. I'm trying to think.
Well, Chris thinks, I'll tell you, probably nobody,
Nobody, okay,
until somebody complains.
okay, that's,
But-
yeah.
but-
Yeah,
But
exactly.
by the same token, you know, yes, we do have a responsibility to do that, but I know you guys have seen websites that you couldn't navigate even though you're seeing and hearing and don't have any disabilities. It's more that you don't want to be the person that somebody raises a hand and goes, you know what, this person's trying to sell me this, but I can't access it because it's more out of fear than out of, than anybody's gonna police it.
Sure,
But by the same token, if you have someone who is capable and knowledgeable and you tell them, listen, please keep this ADA compliant, and they will, or they'll do their best to do it, certainly better than I would. But back to the notion of it's probably going to cost some money. Now, obviously here, and you can tell from Chris's talk, they teach people to do that here and in web design courses, and they'll always do the best they can. And certainly better than we would just stomping around on our own. But I don't think there's I don't think there's any ADA website police
Okay.
necessarily.
so it's more of an
Yeah.
ethical.
Yeah, it's more of a like, as it gets reported, then the legal procedures start happening. So it's really more like you have to be on top of it before it happens,
Sure.
because the moment someone visits your website and they have an issue with it, like, yeah, they could ignore it, they could get frustrated and go like, I'm never coming back again. But also in the other hand is that they can get so angry and frustrated is that they call up someone that can represent them and go like, I cannot access this website. What are we gonna do about it? And they're gonna go, I've got a solution for that. We're gonna hit them with the law.
Right, right.
So usually, one of the people that kind of like help with web accessibility is W3C. So you can go to www.w3.org and they can help with some of that website accessibility. I know that there are other, Wave, web accessibility evaluation tools. This one's really cool because Wave in particular, WAVE, is like an extension that you can put on Google Chrome. And then when you ask for it to check for website accessibility, like it'll give you a long list of like, contrast could be bad here, this could be bad here, this isn't accessible, there's no alternative text to photos. But there are definitely tools out there that you can use that will help with making sure that your website is accessible to as many people as possible.
That must be something they have on our internal, it's called iCampus. That because as I would go through this and I would click it, it would say that, your fonts are too small, your fonts are the wrong color. And then it would tell me how to change them. So it's probably something related to that, because then it kind of baby steps you through making it right. And then when I was done, it confetti blew up and it made me feel good about it. So there's always that. So,
But that's it. That's all I
but
have.
any other questions? Because this is, this is the stuff that it is. It's like a potion. It's like magic. It works or it doesn't. But it's hard. Marketing is, I guess, the definition of marketing is it's hard. Because you're trying all these things. Think of the billions of dollars that are spent every day trying to get you to buy stuff. And do you buy stuff every day? God willing, no. I mean, not all of it, but it's hard. But this part of it is so important now that it can't be avoided, really.
Mhm.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, she got dragged into this a week ago and she killed it. I won't go back and show you digital marketing yet, but we may get to that. Now, the next part is we're going to talk about as employees. Now, You guys may need employees, you may not need employees. I have not had employees in my firm. I managed people for a long time, at the other companies I worked at. And it's always wonderful to have good employees. And it's great to have a good boss too. But I've been teaching for 15 years, different classes. Two of the ones that I think are the most critical in this area are human relations and principles of management, because if you're managing employees, you're herding cats at the end of the day. And in human relations, it's not just personal relationships, it's business relationships. And at the end of the day, you know, happy employees, and by happy doesn't mean you're buying them a new car, you're buying them lunch every day. There's a lot of ways to make employees happy, but this is part of a TED talk that I saw, and we'll talk a little bit more about it on the other side. So I thought this really captured at least my philosophy, and I think the philosophy of a lot of people that want to have successful businesses around the notion of, keeping employees happy.
We survey CEOs, police officers, truck drivers, cooks, engineers. If people are working, we survey. And what we know in terms of their happiness, workers all want the same things. There's 3 billion working people in the world, and about 40% of them would say they're happy at work. That means about 1.8 billion, or almost 2 billion people, are not happy at work. What does that do, both to those people and the organizations that they work in? Well, let's talk about money. Organizations that have a lot of happy employees have 3 times the revenue growth compared to organizations where that's not true. They outperform the stock market by a factor of 3. And if you look at employee turnover, it's half that of organizations that have a lot of unhappy employees. The miracle thing is you don't have to spend more money to make this happen. It's not about ping pong tables and massages and pet walking. It's not about the perks. It's all about how they're treated by their leaders and by the people that they work with. So I'd like to share a few ideas that create happy employees. Idea number 1. In organizations where employees are happy, what you find is 2 things are present: trust and respect. Leaders often say, we trust our employees, we empower our employees, and then when an employee needs a laptop, and this is a true example, 15 people have to approve that laptop. So for the employee, all the words are right, but 15 levels of approval for a $1,500 laptop, you've actually spent more money than the laptop on the approval, and the employee feels maybe they're really not trusted. So what can an organization do to have a high level of trust? The first organization that comes to mind is Four Seasons. They have magnificent properties all around the world, and their employees are told, do whatever you think is right when servicing the customer. To hand that trust to your employees, to do whatever they think is right, makes the employees feel great. And this is why they're known for delivering some of the best service in the world. Idea number 2, fairness. The thing that erodes trust in an organization faster than anything else is when employees feel that they're being treated unfairly. Employees want to be treated the same, regardless of their rank or their tenure or their age or their experience or their job category compared to anyone else. When I think about great organizations who get fairness right, the first organization that comes to mind is Salesforce. They found that men and women working in the same job with the same level of proficiency were making different amounts of money. So immediately they calculated the difference and they invested $3 million to try and balance things out. Idea number 3 is listening. So to be a listener who connects with all types of people, we have to unlearn a few things. We've often taught about active listening and eye contact, an intense stare, and a compassionate look. That's not listening. Repeating what the person says, that's not listening. Being humble and always hunting and searching for the best idea possible, that's what listening is. And employees can feel whether you're doing that or not. They want to know when they talk to you and share an idea, did you consider it when you made a decision? The one thing that everybody appreciates and wants when they're speaking is to know that what they say matters so much, you might actually change your mind. Otherwise, what's the point of the conversation? We all know the things we need to change, the things that we need to do differently. The way you behave, the way you treat others, the way you respond, the way you support defines the work experience for everyone around you. Changing to be a better person, the world is littered with those failures. But changing because there's something you believe in, some purpose that you have, where you're willing to risk almost everything because it's so important to you. That's the reason to change. If it's not, you should probably find a different place to work.
So this notion of happy employees, it drives me crazy. I've been working for 42 years. I've had plenty of different jobs, and plenty of different bosses. And the things he talks about here, I'll make the picture bigger. People watching online don't want to see a tiny little picture. And I've taught this stuff, I've read all this material. At the end of the day, if you have people who are happy, and again, I'll use air quotes, they're going to do a better job. And as he pointed out, you have 3 times more revenue. If people are happy in their work, the company's going to be successful. It's that simple. It has been proven over and over again. If employees are engaged and happy, the company does well. So why do people ignore that all the time? Why is it always, meetings will continue until morale improves? I don't know. I don't know why people don't look at it that way. Now, the hard part, of course, is, well, how do I get happy employees to begin with? Where's the happy employees store? Well, that's part of the hard part. But especially in small business, you're going to be hiring people into your passion, into your effort. And that gets back to the notion of why. Why would they want to work for you? Why do people want to work with the Wright brothers and not the guy with all the money? Well, they believed in the Wright brothers approach, and the guy with all the money was just the guy with all the money. And that's what your challenge is going to be when you're bringing people in. Ideally, people will understand you, they'll like you, and they'll want to work for you because they want to work for you. And yes, they're going to want to make money. That's not discount money. But again, and all the stuff that I've been involved in, all the research, the teaching I do, it's people, especially in this day and age, especially younger people, and we've got 2 young ones in the back of the room here. Money is not the motivator. People do. In my era, you live to work. That was it. Work was it. And now people just, they work to live. They don't want to. Work is not their life. Work is not it is not going to be, they're not going to define them. Work is just a means to an end. They do not want, if they're not happy at work, they don't want to work there anymore. They're going to quit. And making them happy, I'm not saying it's a challenge, but it is a challenge to you as an employer if you're bringing people in, because if you're hiring people, you want to hire people that are the right people. Well, in a big company, is and especially in the classes I teach, in fact, a lot of people work for big companies. Well, that falls to human resources. But human resources, you can only hire the people that they are directed to hire. What kind of person do you want? What qualifications do you want? And then you have to interview these people and make sure that you get the right person in this place to begin with. I can tell you here in just in our little community in EBC, we are so lucky, and I've told these guys that Chris and Bella is another one of our. She also works for us. Bella's back there. Bella is new to our department, but this is one of the best places I've ever worked because of the relationships we have. It's fun. We have fun. We laugh. We screw around a little bit, but we're getting a lot of work done. A lot of work done. But it's because we all get along well. Because there's not drama. Because there's not one person that is the fly in the ointment. Yeah. That might be me. I'm not sure. But that's what makes work. Work should be fun. Yes, we know we all got to go break rocks at some point. At some point, you got to sell the cakes. You got to sell the energy consulting. When I worked at ComEd, we were a utility and we were a monopoly, for God's sakes. We didn't have to sell anything. They were going to buy it better. We were going to make it and they were going to buy it. But we still had jobs to do that were marketing. Can you believe I was a marketing person at a monopoly? But we had them. And so we still had to get jobs done. And a lot of times I had a group of people that were, and 15 people working for me, I would tell them, listen, here's the story. We have to get this done. I don't want to do it and you don't want to do it. But if we do it now and we do it well, it'll be over. Then we can go back to the stuff, the real work we should be doing. Because you always get these missives from on high that you got to do this stuff. Now, in your case, it's going to be the missive from you telling your employees, listen, we got to move this stuff or we're not going to eat tomorrow. You can use whatever, but then make it fun. And every now and then it's like, well, hey, we're gonna get pizzas this week. Friday's pizza day. We're gonna have lunch. Is that expensive? No. Does it make people happy? You'd be surprised the little things that make people happy. If you celebrate somebody's birthday, that makes them happy. Getting free pizzas on Friday, it makes them happy. What's it cost the company? Nothing. But his example, and I know that's a true example because it's happened to me. You tell somebody, oh, I need a laptop. Like you said, it's a $1,500 laptop, $1,500 laptop in a company that makes millions of dollars. You should be able to go online and order yourself a damn laptop. But he's exactly right. And no disrespect, that's exactly what happens here. And we're not that big of a company, but it has to go through a bunch of approval processes. It takes forever to get one piece of equipment. And when I worked at the utility, same thing. Worked at an engineering firm, same thing. More people had to approve it than the laptop was worth. But and it wasn't. To me, it was kind of laughable at some point because I'm old. I've seen this before. But for somebody who needs a laptop to do their work, if they can't get one tomorrow and I got to wait for 2 weeks, what am I supposed to do for 2 weeks? Why did you bring me in here? Don't you trust me? You know, I can see his point, and people do feel that way. Give them something valuable to do. And I know I'm kind of, but to his point, and with 4 seasons, give people the freedom to make a decision. It's simple. Do whatever you think is right to please the customer. Are they going to give away the store? No, not likely. Especially if you hired somebody who's like you. You hired somebody you believe in. You hired somebody you think can do the job. Then tell them, listen, if a customer's got a problem, do whatever it takes to make that customer happy. Is it giving them a refund on their entire meal? Yes, it is. Because you want that person to walk out of here and start, because I took a class, it was all about moments of magic and moments of misery. When people have a moment of misery, they're telling everybody. Everybody. They're going to tell them how bad that restaurant was. They're going to tell everybody they see, hey, I went to Joe's house of pancakes, and it was terrible. My pancake, I ordered blueberry and they gave me chocolate chip. And when I told them the wrong one, they said, well, just eat them, Or we'll get you said chocolate chip. I want a blueberry. And they bring you, and then they charge me for the chocolate chip and the blueberry. They're going to tell everybody. And now what are they going to do these days?
Post it.
They're going to post it. They're going to post it online, and somebody's keister is going to be lit up. So do whatever it takes to make them happy. Because you know what? If something goes wrong, and you come over and say, listen, I'm sorry that happened. I'm going to take that meal off your bill. What can I give you? What would you like to eat? And that's on me. They're going to be, oh my God, they were so good to me. Okay, did it cost a little money? Yes. But that person's going to leave and say, not the bad experience they had. They're going to say, you know what? They messed up my order, but they took it off my bill and they gave me another meal. Or they gave me one to take home because I was in the rest of my party was done. You want it to be a moment of magic, not a moment of misery. And with employees, it can go wrong in 2 seconds. I will be honest with you. I did not hire employees in the companies in the last 21 years because I was tired of managing people. At some point, you get worn out. But if you're starting one, you may have to hire people. So you're going to be focused on hire the right people that share your, if not your vision, at least your temperament, your willingness to help people. Give them the freedom to do the right thing with employees. Give them the freedom to make a decision because they feel part of the company then. They feel like you trust them. And are they going to make a mistake? Yes. Have you guys ever made a mistake? Yes, I've made a lot of mistakes. But you can't crucify somebody for making one mistake either. It's a learning moment. Then you tell them, well, you know what? No, you shouldn't have given him that tuxedo that cost us $1,000. That was probably the wrong thing to do. But next time, why don't we try this approach? But hey, you know what? You made the effort, appreciate it, and then move on. It's that, and that's an employee happiness these days. It's harder. It's harder to distill because it isn't just, well, I'll give you another $4 an hour. That's not going to get it done. That's not going to get it done. If anything, they're going to want time off. Not to mention, and we'll talk about that, I think, next week. There is a paid time off law now. So if after so many hours worked, you have to give people paid time off. But employees are crazy. So, pardon me. So one of the keys about employees, you hire employees that are a good fit. Well, what's that? Well, do you feel comfortable with them? Would you trust them? You don't hire somebody that isn't a good fit. Now, one of the things that, and Brian kind of stepped in and out. I think one of the things that Brian has done an excellent job of doing is he's hired employees that are good fit, but he's also done it in kind of a stealth way in that he brings the potential employee in to meet us all. Bella had to go through that recently. He brought Bella in to meet us, and when she left, we were out together and said, I don't know about her. But no, because we all got to kind of we had a discussion then. Is this person gonna fit on the team? Are they gonna be a good fit? And even though I was a comment, with thousands and thousands of employees, in our formal interview process, which was formal, believe me, they paid millions of dollars for this goofy thing. But at the end of the day, we all had one thing we could bring to the table with any employee we interviewed. Are they a good organizational fit? You could check that box or not check that box. If 3 out of 5 people said they weren't organizational fit, good organizational fit, they're out. Doesn't matter what their qualifications were, because they didn't fit in. They didn't fit in. And that's where a good fit for you is going to be. Your good fit is not going to be your good fit. Everybody's different. And I talk about that in my human relations class, because a lot of times it's communication skills. We all communicate differently. And sometimes you get irritated with somebody just because of the way they communicate. You don't even know it. It's sort of a subliminal thing. But they got to fit. They got to fit with the organization. Then this is the hard part. Know what payroll documents need to be maintained and for how long. So now you get into you're getting into the weeds a little bit. But now you hired somebody. Okay, I love this person. Well, they want to be paid. That's awful. They want to be paid. What about the joy of working there? So you got to be paid. Well, now you got payroll you got to take care of. Now you got W-9s they got to fill out. Now you got payroll withholding you got to go through. But the good news is that QuickBooks will do that for you, or have an accountant do it. We talked about it takes money to make money. Well, you need an accountant, you need a lawyer, you need insurance, probably need a web designer, you need somebody to help with social media. See how the costs add up in this? Not necessarily. You can do some of this stuff yourself, but I would not have an accountant. QuickBooks is great. And if you learn it and you're thorough with it, it can take care of all this for you. I have an accountant do it. Again, back to what's the thing I like to do? Have somebody to blame. Because that way I can say, well, what the hell? I thought you were going to take care of this. Now, it doesn't make it right then, but at least then I don't feel bad about myself. I can always tell somebody else. You got to pay payroll taxes. I added engage an accountant because payroll taxes have to be paid. The government gets very irritated if you don't pay payroll taxes. Actually, one of my business partner lives in California, and one day a letter comes in the mail. All the mail comes to me. It's from the Department of something or other in California. I'm like, oh, what's this? Did we win something? Open it up. For 4 years, we didn't file taxes in California for a corporation. Well, we don't do any business in California. We aren't incorporated in California, but we have an employee who lives in California. So we have to pay corporate taxes because one guy lives there. And we missed them for 4 years because my accountant didn't know either. I had somebody to blame them. Yeah. So I tell them, I said, what the hell? And they said, we didn't even know that we needed to file this. We don't know the taxes in every state. Okay, that's fair. But at least you got to yell at them for a minute. So then we had to pay penalties for 4 years, which were more than the taxes. And now we're paying taxes every year just because he lives there. I mean, almost $1,000 a year just for his keister to be in California. And then the back taxes were even worse. So you have to know these things. Now, if you don't know, you don't know. But it's better that then you can yell at somebody at least. But that's just it. You need to know these things, and they're different everywhere. When I worked for ComEd, we were merging with a company in Philadelphia. If you go to the city of Philadelphia, you have to pay taxes for every day you're there. Payroll taxes. And so I had to file taxes in Philadelphia or in Pennsylvania because I went to Philadelphia like 3 times in a year. Now, granted, thank God the company was keeping track of that for me and sent me all the paperwork, but I had to file tax. When they play football in Philadelphia, they get 16 game checks a year. They get charged taxes for playing in that. Well, these guys are making what? Some are making $10 million a game. They get charged taxes on all that money for that one day they work there. And it's substantial. So you got to know this stuff. Now, do you have to know it? Not necessarily, but that's why engage an accountant. Choose a payroll service if it's not being done internally. And the payroll services there's all kinds of ADP. There's a lot of payroll services. You have multiple employees. It might be worth engaging a payroll company just to get it off of your plate. I mean, it is let's see, what year was that? 1985, I was working for a fence company, and every week we'd line up and he'd write us all checks. Mostly because the guys everyone would spend all the money every weekend. And if they paid us for 2 weeks, they wouldn't come back for 2 weeks because they weren't going to get paid again. So It wasn't, I'm not saying it was not a healthy environment necessarily for a young man to be working in, but that's that. But so if you don't want to do it yourself, you can hire somebody, just check and see how much it's gonna be, see if it's part of your budget, and then one less thing to worry about. I'm always good for that. Then you're gonna have to create policies for paid time off, because that's a law here in Illinois now. I don't know, I think it's an hour for every. I think it's an hour of paid time off for every 40 hours worked or 80 hours worked. But there's a ratio that for every hour that people work, you have to give them so much paid time off during the year. That's a new law in Illinois. Again, for make happier employees, and also because people work and they never get any part-time employees. This is specifically for part-time employees. I know, that's an eyebrow raiser, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, so that's something that should probably look up and consider, because I didn't know it existed either. And I must have like 6 or 8 months off by now. Right? Gotta go back and look at the math. I gotta look at the math. So and it kind of brings us to the end of today. But I could probably just go and teach my human relations class to talk about employees, because it's just so important. It's so critical to your business, because if you bring someone in, you want them to be working with you, not against you. You want to be working with you, you don't want to have to be every minute looking to see what they're doing. Somebody that has some, I'll call it grit. I don't care. I can teach people, and people can learn. Most people are very intelligent. Whether or not they have a work ethic is a whole other story. People can be highly intelligent, have no work ethic, and I wouldn't want any part of it. If they want to learn, you can teach them all day long, and they can be really good employees. Now, some people do need to be, what do I do next? What do I do next? What do I do next? And that's fine too. Then you got to have processes so they know what to do. If you want somebody that's a complete self-starter, well, you better be hiring somebody that's a complete self-starter, which is fine too. We've been I know you've been chipping away your business plan. When we get done with the 4 weeks, you're certainly welcome to come in. We can have one-on-one meetings and talk more about it. We always have our help here at JJC. At the EBC, we can schedule one-on-one meetings. I know you guys are doing that. We have Leda that we work with. They're available too. And then we're here to work on business plans, marketing plans, obviously websites, which is what Chris has been doing more and more of that, because she does a really good job at it, and it's critical. And you've been through it.
Yeah.
You get your domain name, and she can sit down and she'll give you what I call it website basics. And a lot of our clients have had a class or two with Chris, one-on-one, and then they go off and they build their website. I was actually, Chris, and I'll take you offline. You guys get to hear this too. I met with our twins that make the flowers. Now they want to start building an online an e-commerce site, so they can start selling stuff online. So I said, you can come back and Chris can give you a quick update on what you might want to do for e-commerce. Now that complicates things a little, but it's not impossible. If it was impossible, they wouldn't even let you try. But there's a right way to do it too, and probably a wrong way, which Chris could tell you which one's right and which one's wrong. But then, as Chris said, when you start getting deeper into it, you probably need some help, because search engine optimization, having somebody, they got to find you. If you're on the second page of a Google search, forget it. You're not going to get found. You got to come up on the first page. Top would be great. But that's part of, and Chris helps with that. But on a going forward basis, as you get deeper and deeper into this, having someone who will, annually or whatever, do work for you on search engine optimization is critical. And that's where, if you budget for this right away, right when you start your company, it's going to be a lot easier than you're 6 months in and okay, say you make 50,000 in the first 6 months, which would be great, wouldn't it? Then you say to yourself, I need to take 5,000 out of the kitty to start doing marketing now. You're gonna go, what the hell? That 50,000 is gone. I paid rent, I paid employees, I bought product. I don't have $5,000 sitting around, I don't have anything to do with. Well, if you had on day one, if you made 500 and you put $50 aside, well, that's a lot less painful than getting $5,000 later. So having that processes in place, that's going to be critical. So, but even then, next week we're going to talk about financing. We're talking about banking. And in this class, we're going to have a gentleman come in from Huntington Bank, to talk about basically going to meet a banker. It's not any fun, really. It's not really like getting a tooth drilled out.
Oh.
But it's close. Close. But that's the thing though, if you're going through this, you gotta know what to do, what you're gonna have to have and how it's gonna work. Because if you're not ready, then, well, it'll be a short meeting, number one. But number two, if you know going in, you can prepare for it. Just like anything else in life, you can get ready, which is that's huge. So that's kind of it for today. Any questions? Anything we haven't covered you'd like to talk more about? Anything that is on your mind, like, well, we're in 3 classes deep now and we haven't talked about this.
Maybe I misunderstood you earlier. I think you said that you were going to give us maybe some sites or something to go to do research for marketing in your area
Those are available. I'll get those from Priscilla.
Okay.
Yeah, Priscilla has those at her fingertips. They're available. I don't have them at my fingertips. Yeah. That's I don't know. I gotta ask her, is it proprietary to the JCCP or is that something that's publicly available? I know she accesses them during her class, but then again, she runs the City Center partnership, but I don't. So I'll check and see if we can find some traffic patterns or I know right now it's like, well, there's so many things I gotta think about. This is a terrible idea. No, it's just that it's better to think about them in advance and be prepared than, okay, I'm $10,000 in, I'm gonna open my business and I didn't think about marketing. I didn't think about where I put my business. And what do you mean I gotta pay for our website? I'm already tapped out. My kids are eating ramen soup every day.